What is happening in NJ Gamer Dude here, and I am going to be revisiting the whole Nintendo Switch Online Playtest program because apparently some details have in fact leaked about it. But before I get into details, just wanted to say, hey, please like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel. Doing all of that will really help support the channel, but also feel free to just kind of, share the videos outwardly towards like other communities that you're a part of. Feel free to just share away the links and whatever have you, because that's the only way that the channel is going to grow, at least from what I've seen so far. So let's jump back into the details around the Nintendo Switch Online, which supposedly is going to be Nintendo developing an MMO, and that the playtest program was only open to about 10,000 players of the expansion, or rather 10,000 expansion pass subscribers from the dates between October 23rd to November 5th. And that the MMO is apparently going to be focusing on teamwork and customization as players shape a massive planet environment. Now, one thing I did want to just kind of hop back to was the comment section of my last video about when I spoke about this, called Nintendo is an Insane Lot, and Mojave Knight 17 never fails to bring a smile to my face with some good suggestions. Suggesting that the online test is probably to test between Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 because of backwards compatibility. And that certainly could have been the case. Again, with absolutely no information whatsoever, it could very well have been up in the air. If I did, if we did have like more sort of like, suggestions in the comments, I would have definitely wanted to give those a read and see like who was kind of the closest. But yeah, with all of that being said though, that's an interesting idea. An MMO which everyone is cooperatively trying to shape the environment of a planet. Like, what does that look like exactly? That's really what the question is. So, despite requests for secrecy from Nintendo, it looks like the Nintendo Switch Online users are starting to divulge details regarding the upcoming playtest program, suggesting that the Big N's mystery project could be some sort of MMO game. Fans were excited earlier this month when Nintendo announced it would be testing out a new feature for its Nintendo Switch Online service, and if these leaks are to be believed, it could very well be its first real stab at a massively multiplayer online experience. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You're probably thinking about Splatoon. Technically, Splatoon is not massively multiplayer, though that is probably the closest thing Nintendo has had to a very multiplayer-centric IP. So I think it was a matter of time before they did try their hand at something a little bit bigger. That being said, however, I think Nintendo generally tends to help its own niche by either having any sort of multiplayer that can be played on the same screen, i.e. through split screen, or generally through single player. That's for the most part how Nintendo has actually worked. And so for them to try and reach out into sort of an MMO space, that's an absolutely fascinating idea. What does a Nintendo MMO look like? And the information we have here might very well be an example of what that Nintendo MMO would look like if they were to make one. Whether or not this actually comes to pass, that's a completely separate thing altogether. Nintendo Switch Online Playtest program is set to run between October 23rd to November 5th, and around 10,000 subscribers to the service's expansion pass tier will be able to take part. Now, one thing worth definitely pointing out is that when they did put out the link to get as many people as possible for the playtest, pretty much within seconds all spots were taken. So it's crazy to think just how many rabid fans had just jumped onto the link the moment they tweeted it out on Twitter. But the lack of information hasn't kept gamers from getting excited on what it could very well have been. While all the playtest program spots were filled in under a minute in preparation for the test, Nintendo has reportedly requested that participants refrain from sharing any information about the feature being tested. As one might expect though, this request is largely being ignored, and screenshots and other details of the playtest have been leaking onto social media faster than Nintendo can have them removed. Despite them being an incredibly litigious company, you can't really defeat the internet, let's put it that way. According to reports from sources like The Verge and Kotaku, these leaks revealed that Nintendo is working on an MMO where the main objective for players is to work together to fully develop a massive expansive planet. They do this by laying down beacons that create zones and further develop the environment, with the overall goal being to cover the sphere-shaped grid representing the planet with beacons. Aside from beacon zones, players can also head to a social hub known as the Dev Core to level up their characters, acquire items, interact with other players, something that will likely be able to test out to some extent during the Nintendo Switch Online Playtest program. Now, with that being said, I like this idea. I wonder if these beacons will be used for terraforming and things like that. Because when we think about MMOs, it's not just about running around and beating up monsters, enemies, and whatever have you in a bit to level up. Because one thing that's got me extremely excited is a game called Infinity Nikki. Infinity Nikki is what feels like an MMO dress-up game, where you explore locations and areas similar to like Genshin and games like that, but you use outfits to actually be able to traverse different parts of the world and use special abilities that are granted by the outfits that you wear. Granted, that's just me extrapolating from the trailers that have been released of Infinity Nikki so far. I haven't been picked out for the beta test yet, at least I hope I will, but just a matter of time before we kind of get into details on that one, hopefully. But I feel like this is just Nintendo doing it in a fairly different way, where the beacons are used to transform the world, but when they say transform or connect or to do whatever, I wonder if there's some level of terraforming going on with the world. Like, say for example, you put down a beacon and then that beacon makes this part of the world a grassy location, or cover it in sand like a desert, or fill it with water like an ocean or a puddle or a lake, you know? I'm just kind of trying to extrapolate based on what's being said here. Nothing that I'm saying is absolutely 100% or confirmed, but it's just kind of me trying to like establish that this is what we're looking at the moment. What could this potentially lead to? What is that possible outcome in the end? Customization seems to be a key aspect of this Nintendo Switch MMO, as players will be able to customize their beacons to some extent, though they won't be able to do the same in other players' zones. So players seem to have restricted zones. Okay, interesting. Nintendo also describes features of sharing custom content through players must pass an in-game test to show that they understand the importance of respectful communication before they can access these features. All of this put together feels like that Nintendo is going into the Strand genre of game. And you might think, what the hell is a Strand game? And that's a good question. That's a good question. Death Stranding is an example of a Strand game. And I feel like the concept of a Strand game just was treated as like a meme when Hideo Kojima first announced, oh, he's making the world's first Strand game. And it turned out to be Death Stranding. And that apparently like the construction of the world around to help assist other players in connecting each other, which seems like a really cool idea, maybe is what he meant by a Strand game. I'm not 100%, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to mention. And from the looks of it, Nintendo's MMO could be shaping up to be something like a massively multiplayer mix of Minecraft and Roblox, with potentially thousands of players shaping the in-game world together and sharing custom content with one another. Such a title would certainly stand out from the company's usual selection of games, so it'll be interesting to see how things pan out as part of this online playtest program. And that is very true. So with all of that being said, I am very fascinated to hear what you guys have to think about all of this. Hopefully we'll have a more, sort of comments in the comment section below of more different people, and maybe if you guys say something really interesting, maybe I'll be willing to, sort of share on the channel as well. Because sometimes I feel like I should be sharing more comments as well, trying to build more of a community in the end. But with all that being said, please comment below on what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 400 subs in the not too distant future. But with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.